It begins as a quiet, prickling heat at the base of the throat, just behind the collar of a stiff cotton shirt. Within 4 seconds, the warmth climbs the jawline, floods the cheeks, and pools beneath the eyes, painting the skin a bright, undeniable crimson. You feel your limbs go cold, your chest tighten, and your palms grow slick with sweat. In this moment, your body is publicly broadcasting the exact feeling you were trying most desperately to conceal. You do not fully own the face you are wearing. It answers to a hidden network of nerves that overrides your conscious will, exposing your private vulnerability to everyone in the room. For generations, we have treated this sudden rush of color as a biological flaw, a cruel glitch in our evolutionary design that strips away our composure when we need it most. We believe that if we could only master our bodies, we could walk through the world with perfect, untouchable poise. But if you look closely at the cold data of human behavior, you discover that this betraying flush is not a defect at all. It is a highly specialized piece of social machinery designed to save us from our own pride. To understand how this machinery works, we have to step inside a basement laboratory on a rain-soaked Tuesday afternoon in November 1978. The air in the Department of Psychology at a quiet New England university smelled of damp wool, stale filter coffee, and the sharp floor wax used on the brown linoleum. Dr. Ronald Crane, a researcher with a silver-flecked beard and a habit of chewing on the plastic cap of his blue ballpoint pen, sat behind a heavy oak desk. Across from him sat Marcus, a 19-year-old undergraduate who had volunteered for the study to earn $5 and satisfy an introductory course requirement. Marcus had a small, pale scar on his left temple from a childhood swing accident, and he sat with his shoulders slightly hunched, holding a copper coin in his pocket, turning it over and over until it left a sharp, metallic tang on his thumb. He believed he was there to participate in a standard test of cognitive recall under mild stress. Dr. Crane reached into a drawer and pulled out a long, varnished wooden box containing exactly 412 hand-punched data cards. Each card was covered in tiny, precise rows of numbers and letters, organized in a highly specific sequence. Dr. Crane explained that these cards represented 3 years of irreplaceable doctoral research on behavioral patterns. He instructed Marcus to copy the sequences into a leather-bound ledger book, emphasizing that the cards must remain in their exact chronological order, or the entire data set would be ruined. Dr. Crane then excused himself to fetch a reference manual from the archive down the hall, leaving Marcus alone in the small room with the hum of a single fluorescent bulb overhead. For 7 minutes, Marcus worked in absolute silence, the high-pitched 60 Hz buzz of the light bulb the only sound in the small room. The radiator in the corner clanked and hissed, releasing a puff of dry, hot air that made the paper cards feel brittle. As Marcus reached to turn a page of the ledger, his sleeve caught the corner of the heavy wooden box. Time seemed to slow as the box tipped, slid across the slick varnish of the desk, and crashed onto the floor. The 412 cards erupted in a cloud of white paper, scattering across the scuffed linoleum, sliding under the steam pipes, and mixing into a hopeless, chaotic jumble. Marcus froze, his breath catching in his throat. In the absolute quiet of the empty room, the disaster felt total. His heart began to hammer against his ribs, and his hands trembled as he dropped to his knees to gather the scattered pieces of Dr. Crane's life's work. As Marcus scrambled across the floor, his face began to burn. The heat was immediate, starting at his collar and rushing upward like a wave of hot oil. By the time Dr. Crane walked back into the room 3 minutes later, Marcus's face, neck, and ears were a deep, glowing red. Marcus tried to explain, his voice cracking slightly as he apologized, pointing to his sleeve and the edge of the desk. He felt completely naked, his body publicly displaying his carelessness, his guilt, and his shame. He wanted nothing more than to disappear through the floorboards, to hide the burning red mask that told everyone in the room exactly how badly he had failed. But Marcus did not know that the entire scenario was a carefully constructed trap. The cards were not irreplaceable data. They were blank sheets of heavy paper, printed with random characters, specifically designed to be easily spilled. Dr. Crane had not gone to an archive. He had walked 20 feet down the hallway to a small observation room behind a two-way mirror. Beside him stood Sarah, an 18-year-old student who had been told she was waiting for her own appointment. Sarah held a small, chrome-plated mechanical tally counter in her hand, which she had been instructed to click every time she noticed a shift in Marcus's posture or expression. She watched through the glass, her hand hovering over the cold metal of the counter, listening to the small, sharp click, click, click of her own tallying as Marcus's face turned the color of a ripe plum. To understand why Marcus's body betrayed him so completely, we have to look at the unique physical reality of the human cardiovascular system. When you experience a sudden shock of embarrassment, your brain triggers the sympathetic nervous system, the same system that prepares your body to fight a predator or run for your life. Adrenaline floods your bloodstream, causing your heart rate to spike and your breathing to quicken. In almost every part of your body, your blood vessels constrict, pulling blood away from your skin and toward your major muscle groups so you can fight or flee. This is why your hands go cold and your skin turns pale when you are terrified. Yet, in your face, the body does the exact opposite. The veins in human cheeks and temples are structurally different from any other veins in the human body. They possess a high concentration of beta-adrenergic receptors. When adrenaline binds to these specific receptors, it does not cause the blood vessels to constrict, it forces them to dilate. While your limbs are starved of blood to keep you alive, the gates in your face swing wide open, allowing a massive rush of warm, oxygen-rich blood to flood the surface of your skin. It is a localized vascular phenomenon that occurs nowhere else in your biology, and it is completely unique to the human species. Charles Darwin noted this, writing that blushing is the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions. It is a biological response that cannot be faked, cannot be simulated, and cannot be suppressed by sheer force of will. For a long time, researchers wondered why evolution would preserve a trait that so clearly compromises our ability to hide our mistakes. If survival of the fittest favors the strong, the cunning, and the self-controlled, then an involuntary signal that announces your vulnerability to your rivals should have been weeded out millennia ago. A creature that cannot hide its fear or its guilt is a creature at a massive disadvantage. But the data from Dr. Crane's experiment, and dozens of modern replication studies that followed, revealed a startling truth. After watching Marcus spill the cards, Sarah and the other observers behind the glass were asked to rate him on a series of personality traits. They had to evaluate his trustworthiness, his likability, and his suitability as a partner for a future group project. The researchers ran this experiment hundreds of times, with one key variable. Some participants, like Marcus, blushed intensely, while other participants, trained actors who remained calm, managed to keep their composure, offering a cool, collected apology without any change in skin color. When the ratings were analyzed, the results were unmistakable. The participants who blushed were rated as significantly more trustworthy, more likable, and far more deserving of forgiveness than those who kept their cool. The observers noted that they felt a sudden, instinctive warmth toward the clumsy blushers. They wanted to help them. They believed their apologies were genuine. On the other hand, the participants who maintained perfect control over their faces were rated as cold, arrogant, and untrustworthy. Their lack of physical reaction made the observers suspicious, as if they were hiding something deeper, or simply did not care about the damage they had caused. This is the secret purpose of the blush. It is a non-verbal apology written in the blood of our own cheeks. In the wild history of our ancestors, survival did not depend on individual perfection. It depended on the group. If you broke a social rule, if you took more than your share of food, or if you accidentally damaged the tribe's tools, your greatest danger was not the mistake itself, but the threat of being cast out into the wilderness. To survive, you needed to show the tribe that you knew you had done wrong, that you respected their rules, and that you cared about their opinion. You needed a signal of absolute, unfakable honesty. Our biology solved this problem by taking the controls away from our conscious mind. When we make a mistake, our nervous system overrides our pride and forces us to fly a flag of surrender. By turning red, we are saying to the room without a single word, "I know I messed up. I feel terrible about it, and I care what you think of me." It is an act of involuntary submission that disarms anger and invites cooperation. It is the body's way of protecting us from our own desire to look untouchable. We spend so much of our lives trying to build armor. We practice our poker faces, we polish our resumes, and we try to project an image of seamless, unshakable competence. We treat our vulnerability as a liability, a weakness to be cured or hidden away behind a screen of cool indifference. But our design is wiser than our vanity. Our bodies are wired with the understanding that a person who cannot be vulnerable is a person who cannot be trusted. The red heat that rises in your cheeks when you stumble is not a biological betrayal. It is a biological lifeline. It is the system that keeps us connected, ensuring that even when our pride wants to build a wall, our face insists on building a bridge.